All right, this is the second part of problem one. We're gonna do the ledger and the journal at the same time, so it's a little bit easier for us to follow. We'll start with the very first one. It says Sherlock Holmes invested $15,000 in the business on January 1st. So this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna go to the journal and we're gonna see the date, so January 1st. And you know what you could do? Just do January 1 and it makes it. And the account that it's getting affected is cash and capital. And then post reference would be basically from the chart of accounts. Cash is 101, capital is 301. So 101, 301. And then this is very similar to the actual T accounts. So cash, whenever we add money, 15,000, it would go under the debit side. Capital would be under the credit side. And basically your debits have to be equal to your credits. The third line, and make sure you have an indentation. It's kind of like a description. It's invested in the company. Okay, leave one line and then go on with the next transaction. But before we go to the next transaction, we're going to do the ledger. So the ledger, the very first one is account, is cash, account number is 101, and then we'll do date January 1st. We don't have to put anything for the post reference because obviously it says there item. You could just say invested cash, and then either you would debit 15,000, and then your balance would be obviously 15,000. And then let's do the other one. Oh, I kind of wish we had account and account number, but let's do this. Account would be capital, which is under owner's equity, and I'll see account number. It is 301, and then date January 1st, invested cash, and we would credit 15,000 here, and our balance would be 15,000 here. All right, so we are done with the very first transaction. The second transaction, I'm just going to make them with yellow. That means that we're done. Second transaction is January 3rd. Sherlock Holmes purchased equipment for cash for $1,000. So we'll go to the ledger. We'll go 3rd of January, and he bought equipment for cash. Cash is 101. Equipment is 102, which makes it a lot easier. 102, and he bought it for $1,000. So we credit $1,000 in cash and we debit equipment $1,000. And this is just a purchased equipment. And then ledger, we would be cash, be 3rd of January, purchased equipment, and then be for $1,000. Now the balance would be under the debit side because we still have a positive balance, would be equal to the $15,000 that we have minus the $1,000 cash. Our balance is $14,000 in cash right now. Then we make a new account, which is equipment, and the account number is 102, and then on the date is January 3rd. Obviously purchased equipment, and we would debit $1,000 here. So our debit is $1,000, and technically this should be up here. So what I'm going to do is, it should not be down there, it should be adjacent to that. Here, let's do this. Instead of doing it here, let's do it one line below. So January 3rd, purchased equipment. Make sure you spell correctly. And delete equipment. Okay, debit $1,000, and then balance is debit of 1,000. All right, so we are done with the second transaction. Then we go on to the third transaction. I'm gonna make this with yellow. January 3rd, Sherlock withdrew cash for personal use for $2,000. Okay, so same date. We know cash is getting affected and drawing is getting affected, and and withdrew money for personal use. Cash is 101, drawing is 305. 305. And how much did he withdraw? He withdrew $2,000. Okay, so cash would be crediting $2,000 and drawing, debiting $2,000. Let's go over here. Let's go to the cash account, 3rd of January, and say drew money. And we credit $2,000 here. The new balance of cash is 14,000 minus your credit over here, which is 12,000. And then you go over here, capital. I wish I would have done this accounts payable, but I'll do it over here on the left hand side. And then we say account, which is drawing, and drawing account, and it is, I believe, account number, it is 305 if I'm not mistaken, right? Yes, 305 ledger. And then we have January 3rd, and then drew money, and then we debit $2,000 on this side. Our balance is $2,000 still. Alright, I might have to do 2 videos for this as well, so just keep in mind that I'm going to continue. The next transaction is January 4th, and you see we have 3 transactions January 4th. Sherlock purchased equipment on account for $2,000. So the next transaction is January 4th, equipment, and he did purchase equipment on account, so accounts payable is getting affected. Purchased equipment. Equipment is, if you look up, it is 102. Accounts payable is 201, I remember that. And how much did he purchase equipment for? He purchased equipment for $2,000. So we credit 2,000, we debit equipment for $2,000 because we're increasing that, and we credit accounts payable. So we go to the ledger, we go to the equipment, and we say January 4th, purchased equipment for $2,000. So now the balance for equipment is, and I know there's a lot of boxes here that you have to follow, so this $1,000 plus this $2,000, so $3,000. And then we have accounts payable, and I'm gonna make accounts payable all the way down here, just so we have room for everything. Accounts payable, account number here, it is 201. And then January 4th, purchased equipment, and then we credit $2,000, and the balance is credit of $2,000. Now we're done with this transaction. The next transaction is January 4th. Sherlock bought equipment for $1,000. He paid $200 in cash and promised to pay the balance back over the next few months. So same thing, January 5th, equipment is getting affected. Some of them you paid with cash, some of them you paid with account on a loan. And then purchased equipment. Equipment is 102, cash is 101, accounts payable is 201. He bought $1,000 worth of equipment, which is why you debit. And then how much did he pay in cash? He paid 200 in cash and 800 in 200 in cash and 800 on account. All right. So then we go over here and we say the cash is getting affected. Cash is getting affected on January 4th. And then he's paying $200 cash. So now your balance is your 12,000 before minus the 200 that you just paid, which is 11,800. Your equipment is increasing, and your equipment is increasing by $1,000. So that would be your 3,000 plus the 1,000, maybe 4,000. And accounts payable, which we created a little while ago, January 4th, purchased equipment, and he purchased equipment worth of $1,000, but he got an $800 loan. So your balance right now would be the 2,000 plus the 800, 2,800. All right, so we are done with this transaction. I'm gonna do one more transaction and then I'll continue in the next video. And then paid rent for the month for $950. So that would be, and this would be January 4th as well. It is not January 5th, it is January 4th. As far as rent expense, I believe it is also January 4th. Yes. So January 4th, rent expense is getting affected, cash is getting affected, and paid rent is the description. Cash is 101, rent expense is 307. 307. Let's see how much he paid. He paid $950. So we know we credit $950 under cash. When we credit under cash, obviously we debit under rent expense. So then we go over here to the ledger. We go up to cash. And I think this is purchased equipment, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, never mind. Yeah. And then we go up to cash, purchased equipment, and then we have 4th of January, which is paid rent. And he paid rent for $950, so we credit $950 and then we subtract it from our balance. So it's 10,850, and then we add another account here. Account name is rent expense, and account number, it is 307, right? 307? Yes. Okay. 307. Oh, yeah. Number 307, and then the date is January 4th. Paid rent, and then we debit 950. The balance is still 950. All right. So we are done with this, and now I will stop the video and I'll continue it in the next video.